On this week's episode of Life Drive Success, Peyton Mabry, coming up next. Peyton, thanks for joining us today. I appreciate the time that you're going to give us.
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited.
I think you have a lot of good stories to tell.
Yes.
And really the vision that we have for this is that we'll get into the part of how your life experiences drive your success today. But to help frame up to everyone that's watching, tell us a little bit about what you're up to, because you've morphed into this amazing career out of college. But why don't you set the stage?
For sure. Okay, so I graduated from TCU May 2018, so almost a year ago, which is absolutely crazy. They say time flies, but seriously, the older you get, it is so true. Before that, I was a competitive cheerleader, so grew up an athlete. I very much resonate with the athlete mentality, athlete lifestyle. Cheered my first year at TCU, then had spinal fusion surgery to correct the scoliosis of my back. And then fast forward to now, post-graduation, post-college, all of those life experiences, so competitive cheer, the back surgery, TCU, and just all of those transitions and kind of mountains I had to climb throughout all of those journeys really led me to where I am now, which is, it's hard to put myself in a box when people ask me, what do you do? But I'm basically an entrepreneur. I do social media management, social media consulting, live hosting, entertainment hosting, event hosting, MC, and then I have a social media brand and presence, PeytonMabry.com, Instagram, Peyton_Mabry. So all of those kind of encompass what I do now. I don't really have one word that kind of taglines exactly what I do, but what I do mainly is within the digital sphere. So yeah.
So okay, so we're back in college. You're still cheering. You have not had back surgery yet. At that point, are you thinking that you want to have a career in professional sports? Are you thinking you want to be a broadcaster? What is your pathway at that point?
Right. So my journey has been very unique thus far. I went to TCU as a sophomore because I graduated from high school early, took some online college courses, which gave me a lot of credit hours. So when I was actually applying to TCU, I couldn't apply as a freshman. I had to start over pretty much. So for all those courses to count, I had to apply as a sophomore, meaning I had to declare a major, but I was 18. So my first year at TCU when I was cheering, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. I was fulfilling my dream of being a collegiate cheerleader, just kind of learning college, living on my own. So no, my first year at TCU, I had no idea. I credit the passion that I developed for performing and giving said athlete, team, organization a voice to me kind of losing and my career in cheerleading ending when it did, because it was super unexpected. I planned to cheer all 3 years at TCU, only cheered for 1 year and then got the surgery. So no, my first year, I had no idea. And then threefold, I guess, that surgery really made me realize my passion didn't lie in my identity did not lie in cheering per se. It lied in performing and being an ambassador for said, like I said, organization, team, athlete.
So when you start at TCU, I would imagine there's no way that you thought you would end up here where you graduate college and you don't take a job. You go straight into being an entrepreneur.
No, yeah, I did not. Even my grandparents don't fully understand what I do. What again do you do? What are you doing? So no, it's very untraditional. I think I'm on the forefront kind of this whole social media, digital trend, jobs, all of whatever you want to call it. I for sure did not think that I would be going such an untraditional route.
Was there a point in college where obviously there's tremendous value in the experience that comes along with going to college, but at the end of the day, you were kind of paving your own education. You were probably framing you were taking in what you needed to, but you were already starting on the entrepreneurial journey when you were in college. So did that change your perspective of not the holistic value of college, but the value of the education? Because you were the experience, you were creating it on your own.
Yes, it was for sure challenging at times where my creative vision. So my major was news and media. I don't think I've said that yet, which is under journalism in the Bob
Right.
Schieffer College of Communication at TCU. So I started off Stratcom, which was PR and advertising. Thought that it was a perfect fit, being what I do is social media marketing, and
Right.
all of that kind of was cohesive. Then I realized, oh, I actually want to be on the other side of the building, pretty much journalism. So news and media was super unique in terms of I got to kind of curate and pick the upper level classes that I got to take. So I had the fundamentals and foundation of journalism, and then my upper level electives, they call it, came from sports journalism, a little bit sports broadcasting, reporting, sports sociology. So really, I got to pick all of these that fulfilled those requirements. So in a way, I really got to nurture my newfound passion for what I just said, basically being the voice and really educating myself on the whole athlete lifestyle, not just what I had experienced firsthand.
Right.
But then on the flip side, I for sure had some experiences where I felt a little bit limited, or I was being kind of put into a box that I didn't even really want to be in, and I knew I wasn't going to directly pursue. So it was really a challenge between, even when I graduated, I was like, do I need to go back and get my master's? My dad was like, pause, take a break. What would that do to benefit you futuristically in terms of you're basically a freelance social media consultant, manager,
Right.
host. And then on the flip side, the whole time in college, you had professors saying, well, you could be teaching this class, or even things like that. So it was a unique experience.
So at this point, I mean, call it the box of an influencer, and I'll say, as me growing up in a journalism world, falling into a PR world back then, before there's social media. So say 2007, 8, 9 is when it starts impacting business.
Right.
But before then, the journalist was truly the influencer, whether it was a broadcaster or a print journalist. They were the
Absolutely.
influencer. So influencers has only changed from journalist into anybody that can build their own audience over the last few years. So as you're building up this audience, you're starting to you've learned something in journalism. At that point, do you start seeing the potential as an entrepreneur where financial influence and then your passion of journalism start to bridge together?
Oh, absolutely. I don't like to really pigeonhole and put myself in just that influencer box. I am so thankful and so fortunate for the platform and everything that social media has brought me and given me and provided for me thus far in terms of the tagline influencer.
Yeah.
But I for sure try and am very adamant on going and walking my walk more as a journalist influencer, if that makes sense, like just the ethical and the values and all of that. But yes, I see the two really merging together, and especially now post college,
Yeah.
I wouldn't change. I'm so glad that basically my journey laid out the way it did with my surgery and me deciding to switch from communications to journalism and all of the opportunities that brought.
Well, it's interesting because from an outsider, I don't know that you've shifted from journalism. I think journalism has shifted around you because you still have mastered the art of communication, whether that's video or text. In the material that you put out as an entrepreneur, whether you're influencing a brand or you're doing it from a personal standpoint, you're using photography to tell a story. So the reality is you're still telling stories the way that everybody else is. It's just in another category, right?
Yes, most definitely. And that's my goal. That's to just really make the two cohesive and bring that fundamental and that traditional journalism to a more futuristic and forward thinking so-called social influencer, or whatever you want to call it. Just seeing how I can merge the two to reach millennials, my peers, my friends, as well as people older than me, like my parents' age, and just really encompassing all ages, not really focused on one or the other.
So in a social media world, and I think you had to become comfortable with this, and ultimately brands have to identify their voices too, but your voice is ultimately you. And I think the difference between good and great most often is, are you willing to be vulnerable in the content that you're putting forward? And you are always putting yourself front and center. So you have to have got into a place of being vulnerable, of being motivated to be okay with having yourself out there. With that being said, what is the hardest part or the worst part of being exposed like that? Do you ever feel like you're under a microscope, or that people can provide opinions on you that aren't always kind? What are the challenges of doing that?
Absolutely. So my journey as a competitive cheerleader is how my social platforms initially started. So in 2012, my team won all of the major competitions in the competitive cheerleading industry. So NCAA majors and the USASF World Championship. That was very unique and still is, to win all three. Sometimes they call it a curse. Teams don't usually win all three. So it was a very unique time. Like you said, 2007, 8, 9, that's when social media started influencing business. Well, 2011, early 2012 is when it really started to impact the cheerleading industry and millennials and people my age, me, my friends. So with all of that success on my team and the emergence of Instagram and social media and just that huge presence that all of those created, they kind of went hand in hand. And a couple of us on the team started to get insane amounts of friend requests on Facebook, maxed out overnight after we won. And then the Instagram following just came and just kept coming. So that was in 2012. It's 2019. So I grew up kind of under what you said, microscope and all of that. So really unique for me. My parents taught me from the beginning, social media poise, social media presence, and just how to conduct yourself, what to put online, what not to put online. Your audience wants to feel like they know you and like they're your friend. And obviously you want to engage with them, and you want to, so kind, all of it. So you want to say thank you and be the best role model. At least I do. That's what I strive to do, be the best role model and positive impact, and just always very humble and gracious and grateful for everything. But at the same time, you have to be very careful. So I grew up with it. So no, I wouldn't say that the negative comments really get to me. I know that they're going to come because, like you said, I am being vulnerable and I am posting X, Y, or Z online all the time. But I have kind of been on this spotlight, so you say, since I was 13. So,
right. Well, I think something you said there is a valuable piece that you may have. Keep it in the influencer box that maybe some others don't. That is an intangible, and that's what you said is your parents and the way that they raised you helps you create how do you present yourself in a social world. Whereas take athletes, especially last year, many of them were having to go back and delete Twitter posts that they had posted in the past because they didn't have that same upbringing of someone saying, you clearly have a pathway here, awesome, but let's be careful on the voice that you put out there, because it could stick there forever, whatever you write on there.
Right. And that really was never hard or a challenge. It's very authentic to who I am. I'm overall a pretty clean, per se, person, and what I present online is pretty much what you're going to get in person, minus, probably a little bit more personality, but I'm working on that. That's the hard part, kind of balancing the two and having that presence and poise, as well as letting them get to know you.
Right.
But yeah, my parents for sure, just really what it's hard. You're typing and then you press tweet or post and you don't realize, oh my goodness, almost 500,000 people are going to see this.
Yeah, right.
So that reach. And then also I just like you said, athletes. I think that it would be so beneficial for athletes to have so-called, like a crash course one-on-one social media etiquette or how to present yourself or what to post, what not to post. Not because they don't know, but I was an athlete. There's so many ups and downs. There's so many emotions. And locker room talk, man. When you're a professional athlete, that means you've probably been doing what you're doing since you were 4, 5,
right.
6. So what have you been talking your whole life? Locker room talk.
Yeah,
but that locker room talk is not really for social media when you're on that platform and you're representing, like I said, and being an ambassador for your team. And not just your team, but you're representing yourself as well, which is just as, if not more important. So Yeah, my parents really ingrained that, if you can't tell,
Yeah,
and
right.
from the get-go. And so I'm so fortunate for that. But also, it was never really hard for me to follow that advice.
So we've talked with a bunch of folks on this show about what is the chip on their shoulder, and I have a feeling I understand what yours is, but like some people lost their parents, some were bullied as a child, some grew up in poverty, and then ultimately at some point in their life they start using that as fuel. It may have sucked in the moment and created painful moments in the past, but now it motivates them. Do you have something from your life that motivates you to hustle as hard as you do?
Oh, absolutely. So I think I would accredit to my professional fire that I have. And really, when I kind of honed in on, okay, this is the path this is what I'm eager to do. After my back surgery, I would say, like I said, I mean, I got my social platform from cheerleading, and my main role on my team was a flyer. I was an elite level performer, flyer. My team trained, I compare it to how gymnasts train for the Olympics.
Sure.
So that's kind of how I trained from 2011 to 2015 with my team. So, I mean, I used to bend in half. And when you get your spine fused, you cannot bend.
Right.
So, literally overnight, what I most identified with was taken from me. And I say that a little bit lightly, but also very seriously. It was my decision. It was one of those things overnight. I was like, I need to get this now. I was so fortunate to get it at Texas Scottish Rite Hospital for Children here in Dallas. I was 18. Actually, I think I just turned 19 before my surgery. So, I mean, that's right on the age where usually they would stop treating patients because it is a children's hospital. And my surgeon and my team of, I mean, I wouldn't change it for the world, but yes, I would say that my surgery and just kind of having that redirection at a time I basically least expected. I was going to my junior year of college, cheering collegiately, and then 1 second to the next, being able to bend in half to basically, I had to reteach my body how to do everything, walk. So crazy.
So and I remember when that happened, you started you almost you transformed immediately into being sideline reporter,
I
and
did.
yeah, and having a voice of behind the field. So it was
Yes.
I was impressed with how quickly you were able to turn that, and then obviously that's turned your content today to having a shift. If you look back at the history of your Instagram or whatever profiles you have, you've gone through various changes, and every time it seems like you find your audience fairly quickly.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I think that really goes back to I really am presenting my authentic self. And I think those that engage and follow me, hopefully, see that. And I'm really just sharing my life. And yeah, I did. As soon as I got the surgery, I was very fortunate. I got to work with TCU Athletics, and I was their first, basically, social media sideline reporter, so to speak. So I produced live up to the minute content on game day, which was really, honestly, what got me through that transition time for me. Because if I wouldn't have had that to basically have that commitment, and I was still a part of game day. I mean, I'd been cheering for 14 years, and then bam, gone. So being able to still be a part of game day and curate that really helped me through that transition.
So what does I mean? This is a horrible question because social media changes every 5 seconds. But
Yeah.
where do you see the future going here? I mean, you have a voice, you have an audience, you have the ability to consult brands on probably figuring out who they are. You have a way of promoting a brand and then tracking through data. Did you actually have influence? How does this stuff merge together or melt together in the future to present where you go?
Right. Honestly, I think that the possibilities are endless. I think that is the beauty in social media and all of this new technology has provided for us. I see traditional media in terms of broadcast television. I hope that major news stations and networks start to make that shift to social and digital media. I think that there's a huge gap in the market right now and kind of a huge blank space, gray area where people could be really tapping in and taking advantage of, and also being a pioneer in that space, basically taking that traditional media to social media. And then for me, I'm hoping that the brand and the presence that I've built can help me lead to taking that traditional media to social media. So really, for me, it's a full circle thing. I hope that I can bring all of it together. That's what I'm working on now.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, the truth is, if the broadcast world, or just media in general, what traditionally happen is you have news and sports and weather, you have lifestyle, sports, business, and front page. So they've created all these segments, and if we're watching even your story of going from cheerleader to sideline reporter to fashion expert, and almost being able to be a chameleon to what the generation of your followers want. If broadcast or journalism as a whole would look at that, and also look at how millennials don't want to be boxed in. They want flexibility. Right. They want to be able to say, one day I want to cover sports and the next I want to cover fashion. So I think you've set up a pathway of saying, like, look, I am the voice of someone that you're going to have to figure out how to communicate with in the future. What would it look like if you communicated the same way that I did? You have a shot at connecting with the next level audience that might be engaging in their media.
Oh, absolutely. And like I said, that's the goal for me. Being able to, I call it like a web show with 5 things. You can touch on major news, you can touch on some fashion, you can touch on some lifestyle, be it curated to me and my personal self, or, something trending, I'm not sure. And then health and wellness, fitness, and then sports. Yeah, bringing that to digital media. I mean, the person who does that and does it right first, I hope I'm a part of that, because that's gonna be what is really gonna get people to understand that shift that has happened and that needs to happen for everyone.
Yeah. Well, I find something extremely valuable, whether this is done on purpose or not, but on your Instagram profile, you say, making it up as I go. I think that's authentic, because the reality is nobody is experts in this stuff. Everybody is. The Kardashians are making it up as they go. The journalists are making it up as they go. And I think that's a very powerful statement, because what you're saying is, look, I know I have 500,000 of you. I'm going to hope that I can connect with you on something that I'm going to make. And if it doesn't, I'm gonna keep trying. I think that's the beauty of a social audience is nobody will ever become Blockbuster. We will never be the one that said, this is the way that things are done. This is the way we have to do it.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. That was one of those things. I think I added that like at 1 a.m. one night when I was, scrolling on social media, like looking at everything. And then, as when you graduate college, especially, most people put what their job is in their bio. Just like in college, it was at my first year, TCU cheerleader. And then after that, it was news and media and TCU athletics blank and all of these things. And then you graduate from college and you got to erase it out of your bio. And then your bio for a second is like, what am I? So like I said at the very beginning, I don't particularly know how to just put myself into a box. I don't want to be in a box.
Yeah.
So I thought that was just kind of perfect for me, just making it up as I go, because really thus far that you just gotta do it, and you got to do it how life hands it to you pretty much. So yeah.
I want to end it on this, because I think this is a valuable piece of advice, and it's not just for those that are going through college. I mean, at the end of the day, a college blueprint would have said you have to go sit behind a desk and take a job. That's the way you're gonna live your life after college. You chose not to follow that path, and the reality is there are people that are sitting behind desks right now that might want to start their own business, or are waiting for that motivating factor. But what advice do you give to someone on whether you follow the traditional "this is the way we have to do it" path, or you be exploratory, which is kind of what you were doing outside of college?
Oh yeah, I mean, listen to your heart. And that sounds so cliche, but what's in your mind and what's in your heart, that's been given to you specifically for a reason. So what's in my mind and heart, I know I could not go and sit behind a desk from 9 to 5. It is not my personality. It is not how I'm wired. I would go absolutely nuts. So I knew that. And I also knew I like to be busy. I'm a creator, but at the same time, I'm a businesswoman. I'm very business minded. That is the foundation of everything. So journalism and business is what basically guides me in my creative tasks and ventures. So just listen. I mean, you've been, like I said, you've been given whatever that little thing in your head that keeps going off. Oh, I want to start this site. Start it. If you need to let your boss know at the time you're starting something to help with time, a lot of people are scared to completely quit their 9 to 5, which is, I mean, understandable. It's what you know, it's what you've been taught to know, that cookie cutter thing out of college, like you said. So really just taking that passion and try it, morph it, make it up as you go. So yeah, just listen. You've been given that passion and that little bug in your ear for a reason. So you got to follow it.
I love it. Peyton, I'm impressed that you were able to do it. Not many people have the guts to do what you've done. You've taken a leap of faith and to put in the hands into your own story. I love that you're owning your own story. And I'm going to keep cheering for you. It looks like you're off to some really cool stuff. So
thank you.
Thanks for joining us. And
oh, absolutely.
Appreciate telling the story.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Awesome.